All right, my friends, Ron here again. This video session is going to be about one of my favorite text editors of all time, and that's Notepad++. If you're like me and you do a lot of text manipulation, spreadsheets, comma delimited files, machine lists, things like that, this application is awesome, and I'm so excited about it that I wanted to take the time and put together a class to show you guys some of the features that I use every day. So first up, we're going to go ahead and download the product. The version I'm running right now is a little older, so I'm going to get the latest and greatest. I'm just going to go ahead and run it in place. And when we launch it, up comes the change log for the latest and greatest things. And if you're like me, you never read this anyway, but it's here if you want to go through it. I'm going to go ahead and close that down. All right, the first thing I want to show you about Notepad++ that I really like is the idea of sessions. So let's say I have a project I'm working on that requires me to work 5 different files. So I've got 5 files open here. And if I have to work on this on a regular basis, it can become kind of a pain to have to open these files each time, every time. But if we use this feature called sessions, I can say File, Save Session. And I'll just call this session test. And I can close these files down. Maybe throughout the day I've been editing some other stuff, but then I come in and I need to get back into that session. So I open up Notepad and I can open up my session by going to Load Session. It's a good idea to save all your sessions in one spot. So I can open up test.session and it'll open up all 5 files for me on the fly. So that's nice if I've got a lot of projects that require multiple file editing, or I'm working in files and I need to move back and forth in them as a group. Sessions is the way to go. The other nice thing about it is it treats the files you have open when you close it as your default session. So it'll set those up and save them. Which also, you got to be careful, because if you're like me, sometimes I have files open on remote computers. When I shut down Notepad, I forget to close those files out of that default session, and then when I open them back up again, lo and behold, it sits and spins trying to connect to that remote computer, which may not be online. So be aware of that and be careful. Another thing you can do with sessions is under the settings. If you go to Settings, Preferences, Multi-Instance, you can tell it to open mono instance or multi-instance. The difference is you can have multiple instances of Notepad++ running when you open a new session. By default, it'll only open one, and every file you open will open in that one. You can say always use multi-instance mode, where every time you open something, it opens in another one. Or you can say open a new session. So let's take a look at this. So now I go to File, Load Session. And I load that session, and it loads it up in another window of Notepad++. This is nice. You want to be able to move things around and not have to have all those on a tab. That's why I like the sessions and the multi-instance part of this. Very slick utility. Moving on from multi-sessions, let me close that window down. One thing you want to do right off the bat, go to Settings, Preferences, and set your default directories. Otherwise, when you save new files, the default setting is to open files or save files to the last place you saved them. If you're saving in a project folder somewhere or on the network, that can get you jammed up and cause you lockups. You can also remember the last directory used, but what I like to do is just give it a folder to save to by default. And I use the root of my C drives. So if you set that, then every time you open a file, it'll start out in that folder regardless of where you left off. Let's say, for instance, I save a file to the desktop. File open, it still defaults there. So that's nice if you always want to keep stuff I get into that problem a lot where I save a file and then I'll save another file and realize I've saved it to the wrong folder when I wanted it in my default. So go in there and set your default. That's helpful. Anytime we want to go to multiple windows, let's say I want to view two files side by side, I can just take this and drag it out and drop it, and it opens in a second window. So this is also a nice feature if I want to do side-by-side comparisons. There are plugins that can do this kind of thing as well, but just if you want to get two windows that you can move around or resize, that's a nice way to go. Let's go change those preferences back for right now. We'll stop there with sessions. The next thing I want to show you, which is a really nice feature, again, if you work in Windows or you work in what they call restricted folders, let's say I want to open my host file. If I tried to do this in Notepad and I made a change to my host file and tried to save it, it would tell me access is denied. And then I'd have to exit out of my changes, go back, launch it in admin mode, go back into the folder, open it up, and redo my changes. That's a pain, especially if you've done a lot of edits in a protected folder. This is a feature I love about Notepad++. I've opened it as a non-admin function. I went in there and opened my file because I'm not thinking about it being a protected folder, but when I hit save, Notepad will say, hey, you can't do this, it's protected. Do you want to relaunch in admin mode? Of course I say yes, and it reopens the file as administrator, but my changes are still there. So I can hit save. No harm, no foul. I didn't lose all my edits. That's one of the main things I love about this. You can save to protected mode folders, not lose your edits, and it's for this reason that I made Notepad++ my default editor. So if you go to the Notepad+ homepage and choose Resources, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see Notepad Replacement. Click on that, and it gives you this registry key you run. Copy this command. You need to run this in an admin prompt, so say run as administrator. You type that in and hit enter. It completes the command. And now, should I forget I'm using Notepad++, and I go back to typing old-fashioned Notepad, when I hit enter, it's still going to launch Notepad++. So I can have it remember for me to launch Notepad++, and then Notepad++ will remember if I need admin functions to remember my edits and restart in that mode. Another great reason I love this product. So thanks for joining me for the first session of Notepad++. In this, we went through the install. We went through sessions and how they work. We went through setting up multi-instance, how to set up Notepad++ as our replacement for Notepad, and how it will auto-reload in admin functions when you're working in protected folders. Until next time, have a good day.